now presents a reading of articles and features from USA Today for Friday, August 21st. Your reader for this hour is me, Chet Walczyk. I'm glad you were able to join us. We'll kick it off with the USA Today Weekend Edition cover section and one of their feature stories, which is quite important, I believe. Scams target seniors with help of AI. Adult children become liaisons as emotional, financial toll set in. It's the kind of call that makes Clayton Leah Broughton's blood boil. Leah Broughton, senior executive spokesperson at Truecaller, a caller ID and spam blocking op, said a man called in recently asking for help. His mom, a grieving widow, had been scammed out of more than $7,000. Scammers told her they had worked with her late husband to cover up tax evasion records, and in order to preserve what was left of her inheritance, she had to pay up. By the time her adult son found out about the scam, it was too late. Using artificial intelligence, scammers are scouring obituaries and looking for vulnerabilities, Leah Broughton said. It is so disgusting. I can barely keep my cool about it. Leah Broughton couldn't help the family recover any of the money they had lost, but he said the family was able to seal off the widow's bank accounts, and now anytime she moves money, one of her adult children has to approve it. More adult children are becoming liaisons between their parents and their parents' bank accounts as AI makes fraud harder to spot. As members of the sandwich generation, many of these caregivers are already facing overwhelming emotional and financial strain while caring for their children and aging parents. Add in elder fraud, and the pressure compounds, Leah Broughton said. There were more than 200,000 cybercrime complaints made to the FBI in 2025 by victims 60 and older, totaling nearly $8 billion in losses. And those numbers are underreported, experts say. Some of today's sandwich generation caregivers feel compelled to filter their parents' every call, text, instant message, and piece of snail mail to avoid the financial devastation of a scam. Ian Bendowitz, general manager at LifeLock, an identity theft protection service, did just that after his mother's paid caregiver stole her identity to open fraudulent loans and credit cards in her name. Bendowitz said he cleared all sensitive financial documents out of his mother's house and redirected her mail to a third-party site to be scanned. He told her doctors not to provide her caregivers with paper documents after visits. He could not risk another breach of his mother's privacy. I was already under financial stress taking care of my mom. You know, it's not cheap to have caregivers in the home, Benoit said. I can't tell you the despair and weight that I felt. Elder fraud is not new, but more seniors than ever before are embracing smartphones, Leah Broughton said, and in some cases spending just as much time online as today's kids. Bendowitz said things have gotten worse since his mother's fraud incident in 2016, mainly because of the rise of AI. Being proactive about protecting seniors from scams is imperative, he said, but he also understands the barriers for some families. Most caregivers put scams and data privacy at the bottom of the list of things that they are caring about. Just like me, they are worried about the physical health and the mental health of the individual, he said. But if you neglect that, then it can cause much bigger problems down the road. Patrick Coughlin, a cybersecurity expert and author, said the mental health impact of scams is sometimes just as crushing as the financial hit, leaving victims and their families feeling ashamed and isolated. The first thing people say is, "How did you fall for that?" he said. That shame can lead seniors to keep quiet about a scam for longer, potentially losing even more cash in the process. AI has made scams even more convincing, Leah Broughton said. Con artists can use AI to research victims, identify which scam might work best on that person, craft the perfect script, and create a deep fake image, voice, or video to deliver the messages. AI also makes it possible for scammers to make thousands of calls at once. They don't necessarily commit the fraud on the first call, Leah Broughton added. They may just be gathering personally identifiable information to leverage against you in the future. Cyber criminals run their scam operations like businesses, Coughlin said. Some of them are leveraging AI better than legitimate businesses in the United States. Only their, quote, customers are fraud victims, and their, quote, sales are stolen goods. Well, the good news? Several anti-fraud companies are using AI to combat bad actors and identify fraud. Apps like Carefull, that's spelled Carefull, or Coughlin's Savvy, Savi security, help caregivers keep tabs on their loved ones' accounts for any suspicious transactions. Still, Leah Broughton said, it's important that caregivers talk with their aging loved ones about fraud. Not to make them feel paranoid, he said, but to help them understand how common fraud is and what scams are trending. Truecaller keeps a list of trending scams on its website, and the National Council on Aging recently posted a list of the most popular financial scams targeting older adults. If you or your loved one does fall victim to a scam, be sure to take screenshots and save other documentation so you can report it. But the best approach, Benowitz said, is prevention. Do not wait until something happened, because then it's a lot harder to resolve, he said. Make sure that you're protecting all of their data, not just their physical and mental health. Jobless are afraid hiring is broken. Applicants feel distrust, frustration, and burnout. After getting a layoff notice in May, software engineer Todd Hendricks, 46, started his job search. One Friday, he signed onto Zoom for the coding round of a multi-step interview process and waited for someone to appear. Well, no one did. He reached out to the recruiter and heard nothing back. The next Monday, an email landed in his inbox. The company said it was no longer moving forward with his application based on his performance in the interview. He says, never happened. Hendricks is one of many American job seekers who believe the hiring process is broken. Finding a job has rarely been easy, but in 2026, fierce competition, the growing use of artificial intelligence, and a lack of trust in employers have further complicated the process. U.S. employers added a historically low number of jobs in 2025. Hiring bounced back in the spring, but has cooled in recent months. Employers shed 23,000 roles in July. People are still getting hired, though much of the recent job growth has been concentrated in a few select sectors, like healthcare. The search is tougher for candidates like Hendricks, who is looking for a job in technology, an industry that accounts for 31% of all job cuts announced this year. The nation's unemployment rate was relatively low at 4.1% in July, though economists say it fell this year largely because workers dropped out of the labor force, not because a massive number of candidates were hired. Some analysts believe one reason behind the departures is burnout from the job search. After being laid off in May 2023, Candy Peterson said she secured a new job 3 months later in August, only to be laid off again in September. Though she has landed some contract work since, Peterson, 54, said that about 5,000 applications later, she is still without a full-time job. A former executive administrative business partner, she first applied to similar roles. As time dragged on, she applied to everything that aligned with her skill set. Amanda Dobson, founder of Clear Pathways, an HR and leadership advisory firm, said one of the problems with hiring today may be that volume has replaced intention for job seekers and recruiters alike. The explosion of remote work amid the COVID-19 pandemic sent applicants vying for the same jobs around the country rather than competing with just those in their area or those willing to relocate for a position, Dobbs said. U.S. applicants per open role have doubled since spring of 2022, according to LinkedIn research released at the start of this year. It found that 65% of people said finding a job had become more challenging, citing competition as the main obstacle. Recruiters used to review about 100 applications per role in early 2021. They are now processing 299 per hire. Employers receive hundreds of applications and cannot respond to each. Applicants don't hear back, so they apply for more jobs, and the cycle continues, Dobson said. Vicky Salemi, a career expert at job listing site Monster, said she has seen lifeguards apply to certified public accountant roles and a candidate apply to 10 positions at the same company at one time, a red flag to the employer. She and Dobson advised job seekers to narrow their search. If you are sending out 500 applications as a candidate, there's no way that you actually want to work for those 500 jobs, Dobson said. Instead of spending the energy, the 5 to 10 minutes per application that you're sending out, and sending it out 500 times, take 20 minutes on your resume and take 20 minutes on your application to thoughtfully answer the applicant's questions. A problem with the approach may be that only 10% of job seekers feel that most of their applications are reviewed by a human. According to Live Careers 2025 Job Search Frustration Survey, though 64% believed their resumes were optimized for applicant tracking systems. Dobson said they are right to be skeptical. I talk with a lot of HR professionals, and in the recruitment process, they're not looking at every single resume, she said. They are letting the systems do that. At 93%, most recruiters surveyed by LinkedIn late last year said they plan to increase their AI use in 2026, and 59% said the technology was already helping them discover new candidates. Nobody talks to you anymore. You get invitations. Oh, we have an AI interview. I'm not talking to AI. I'm not sending a Loom video just so you can see me sitting there talking to myself, Peterson said. Where's the humanity in this? But applicants are using AI too. The LinkedIn survey found 81% of people had used AI to assist their job search or said they planned to. Hendricks described it as an automation arms race. Applicants are increasingly using AI to tailor their resumes and cover letters on the applications, and employers increasingly will use AI or other automated systems to filter and rank those applications, he said. Hendricks is not relying on AI to rewrite his applications. Even before AI, there was this concept that you should have a unique resume for every job application, he said. Now, AI has made that easier, whereas people used to do it by hand. But, my experience is my experience. I'm not going to augment it in ways that aren't true, he said. Even if an applicant uses AI to help optimize their application, if a tracking system is flagging resumes for specific keywords or phrases, a misplaced comma may be the reason an applicant is never seriously considered, Dobson said. Because of where a comma was placed in their criteria, they were auto-rejecting a lot of candidates that they should have been reviewing, he said of one company. We are relying too heavily on these systems and not using a human to review candidates. The usual way people measure job market tightness is by comparing the number of open jobs with the number of unemployed people. However, a large and rising share of job postings target already employed workers or represent inactive listings, a Federal Reserve Bank analyst said last November. As a result, the vacancy to unemployment ratio now overstates how tight the labor market truly is for unemployed workers. Even if a job listing is not a scam, a company may post a role while planning to hire internally or recruiting someone already employed elsewhere. A budget change could mean a role that was once real is now cut. In those cases, a company that may advertise an opening that job seekers never had a realistic chance of getting. Candidates call these listings ghost jobs. Applicants have no way to know whether another candidate was selected, or the hiring plan changed, or the position was never actively being filled and was just a listing to increase the appearance of success on the part of the company, Hendricks said. If I apply to 10 positions and receive no interviews, I need to know whether that means I'm targeting the wrong roles, or I'm presenting my experience poorly, or I am applying to positions that weren't realistic opportunities in the first place. Salemi said that while it's true there are job postings unemployed candidates never had a realistic chance of getting, companies don't post them just for fun, but rather to build a talent pipeline or a stack of resumes to reference the next time they have an opening. Talent pipelines haven't worked out for Peterson. Nobody ever called me back because they built a pipeline from a job that I applied to 3 years ago, Peterson said. Candidates have more trust in job postings when companies share clear salary ranges as well as transparent expectations around workload and hours. But they don't always get them. After reviewing enough job posts that listed the position as remote only to find out the company requires employees to work in office, Peterson doesn't trust job descriptions anymore. And she's not alone. Only 10% of workers see job descriptions always accurately reflect the reality of the role. Surveys found that 81% of workers said they at least sometimes encounter job descriptions that feel vague or overly polished. Beyond determining whether a company means what it says in a job posting, candidates also are navigating scam offers. Peterson said she receives suspicious texts and emails promising to help her land a job every day. You get, of course, yeah, we have a job for you, but you need to pay this person to rewrite your resumes, she said. It's scary to see how many people will try to take advantage of somebody who is already down. At 95%, most job seekers have encountered a suspicious job offer, and 98% said today's job market increases vulnerability to scams. To verify whether an opportunity is real, Salemi said, job seekers should ask themselves a few questions. Is it realistic? Does it highlight specific responsibilities? Is it listed on the company website? Does the company have a mailing address? Does the recruiter have a professional email address? She reminds job seekers that most companies won't need their social security number or address until after they are onboarded. Legitimate employers will not just immediately hire you without having screened you, Salemi said. Your gut was likely going to be right anyway, so trust it. It's a tough world out there. You are listening to reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and the time is 19 minutes after the hour. Here's a bit of an offbeat but interesting story. Genetic researchers are trying to identify the boxcar boy. DNA may help identify teen found in 1932 in North Carolina. An unnamed boy may soon be identified if genetic genealogists can raise enough money to have his remains exhumed. Known only as the Boxcar Boy, the child was found dead in a Southern Railway boxcar in September 1932 in central North Carolina. Estimated to be between 14 and 16 years old, the boy was crushed by steel beams as he slept. News outlets shared information and a photo of the boy in attempts to identify him, but never did. The boy was buried in a Charlotte cemetery 2 weeks after he was found, still unnamed, newspaper archives show. The Ramapo College of New Jersey's Investigative Genetic Genealogy Center, which works to identify unnamed people and solve cold cases, asked community members in March for donations to exhume the boy's body and hopefully give him his name back. The fundraiser, a joint effort between the center and the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, is just more than $1,000 away from its goal. On August 13th, the center heard from someone who promised the remaining funds for the exhumation and reburial, said Karen Binder, director of the college investigative lab. If the exhumation is successful, the center will pay for DNA testing and then provide pro bono investigative genetic genealogy services to identify the boy, Binder said. The boy was found dead in a Southern Railway Company boxcar. There was a steel beam against his head, and his skull was crushed, according to a death certificate. His chest was also crushed. Coroner Frank Hovis believed the boy died accidentally while sleeping. The boxcar had steel beams in it, and there may have been a sudden jolt, which caused the beams to roll onto the boy. The coroner said the boy likely died instantly. There were few clues as to who the boy could be. He wore a coat with a label from a Norfolk, Virginia clothing store and the date 1920. He had blond hair, gray eyes, and a scar above his left knee. He stood between 5'4" and 5'7" tall and weighed between 120 and 125 pounds. After the boy died, thousands of people visited a local funeral home where his remains were held to try and identify him. The coroner asked the Charlotte Observer to publish a photo of the deceased child in hopes that someone could name him. Still, there was nothing concrete. According to an October 1932 report in the Charlotte Observer, some people thought he may have been walking or hitchhiking through the city. The Charlotte chapter of the King's Daughters raised money for the boy's burial in Charlotte on October 1932. Charlotte Boy Scouts served as pallbearers at the boy's funeral. He was wearing a navy blue suit. A local mother donated the suit, which belonged to her son, who joined the Navy. The mother thought the suit would make a fitting donation to the boy's mother. His headstone reads, "Unknown boy, buried by the King's Daughters." The organization also included the date he was found, along with a scripture. But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. E. Peel, president of the King's Daughters at the time, said in the Charlotte Observer that the boy deserved that much. We know nothing about this boy, but we feel that he should have the privilege of a Christian burial and that he should find friends in the city to take care of him after death, even though he knew no one here before he died. Information about the case and the fundraiser can be found at tinyurl.com/boxcarboydonations. Rockets launched almost daily in the United States, and even more are ahead. Back in April, people around the world paused their days to collectively watch in awe as 4 intrepid astronauts were launched into space toward the moon atop NASA's most powerful rocket ever. That mission, known as Artemis II, captivated the public for 10 days as 3 Americans and 1 Canadian made a trip around the moon and back to Earth. But while the mission has without a doubt been the most high-profile launch so far, guess what? Reigniting public interest in human spaceflight in a way not seen since the Apollo era, it hardly stands alone in 2026. By now, rockets are launching almost every day from U.S. soil, most without people aboard. In fact, just one other mission so far in 2026, a joint NASA and SpaceX mission launched February 13th to the International Space Station, sent astronauts to space. Rocket launches in the United States have become so routine that most barely warrant news headlines. Americans, meanwhile, have become so accustomed to them that most barely bat an eye, even when SpaceX launches its Falcon 9 rocket multiple times a week and then makes it look easy to return its first stage booster for a bullseye landing on a ship in the middle of the ocean. And while both East and West Coast have ushered in record year after record year for launches, rockets are only due to fly more and more frequently in the years ahead. As NASA increasingly cedes spaceflight missions to commercial companies that were once the realm of government space agencies, those sorts of missions have steadily been increasing year after year. For instance, SpaceX, the commercial spaceflight company founded by tech mogul Elon Musk, has launched its Falcon 9 rocket hundreds of times from California and Florida, making it by far the most active rocket in the world. The two-stage, 230-foot rocket is not only used to deliver SpaceX's Starlink internet satellites to Earth orbit, but is also used to propel astronauts to the space station and is contracted for a variety of commercial, civil, and military payload deployments. Now, the Federal Aviation Administration, which licenses commercial rocket launches, says the rate of rocket launches across the United States is only expected to grow in the next decade. The FAA is predicting nearly 4,300 launches between fiscal 2026 and 36, with space flights increasing annually from more than 200 a year to more than 500. The projection should be no surprise to even casual observers of the spaceflight industry in the United States. Florida and California, the states where rockets are most commonly launched, both saw record years in 2025. The upcoming surge in rocket launches is due to a variety of circumstances that have increased the demand for launch providers to up their cadence. Most prominently, NASA is racing against China to return Americans to the moon under its Artemis campaign. The next mission under the complex program, Artemis 3, would set the stage for a crewed moon landing as early as 2028, known as Artemis 4. From there, NASA looks to use a series of crewed and uncrewed missions to build a $20 billion moon base by 2032 close to the South Pole, where rotating crews of astronauts can live and work long term. Then, there's the fact that more and more aerospace startups are looking to get in the satellite deployment business that SpaceX has seemingly cornered with its lucrative Starlink venture, which has boomed into a massive constellation. Space tourism also remains a profitable industry, with Virgin Galactic looking to capitalize on Blue Origin's 2-year hiatus from the sector as Jeff Bezos' company focuses on its towering New Glenn rocket and lunar landers. You are listening to reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and the time is 29 minutes after the hour, and we look over to the opinion section for Friday, August 21st. And we have a piece written by a couple of physicians, Dr. Joseph Sakharin and Dr. Rebecca Stone. Dr. Sakharin is a general trauma critical care surgeon and executive vice chair of surgery at Johns Hopkins Medicine. Dr. Stone is a professor and director of gynecologic oncology at Hopkins, champions the Outsmart Ovarian Cancer Campaign, and their piece is entitled, "Women Need to Have a Choice on This Cancer." Two surgeons recently scrubbed in for the same patient. Her story appeared in the New York Times, one of the first instances that a national audience has seen what this choice looks like in an operating room. She had come in for a painful inguinal hernia. One of us, a general surgeon, repaired it. Then, at her request, the other, a gynecologic oncologist, removed her fallopian tubes. The first procedure relieved pain she already had. The second was chosen by the patient to proactively reduce her roughly 1% lifetime risk of a cancer long known as the silent killer. It took a few extra minutes, but the small time investment represents one of the most consequential shifts in our approach to eliminating ovarian cancer. What are the calling card symptoms of ovarian cancer? In July, researchers writing in BMJ Oncology reported that 2 in 5 women are diagnosed with ovarian cancer only after symptoms become severe enough to require an emergency room visit. The ratio is alarming because it means that the window for early diagnosis had already closed. Women diagnosed in the emergency room face a 3-fold lower odds of having an early stage, potentially curable disease. Many had felt unwell for months, bloating, abdominal pain, a constant need to urinate, the kind of vague, ordinary symptoms that women learn to dismiss month after month and year after year, the kind of symptoms that many doctors chalk up to chronic urinary tract infection or too much gluten. But for women ultimately diagnosed with ovarian cancer, these symptoms are the calling cards of a disease that has already spread to millions of tumors, covering nearly every surface of their abdomen. It is instinctive to ask how we might catch this cancer sooner. For decades, that instinct has driven serious effort. Blood tests, imaging, large screening trials. None of it has lowered the death rate from ovarian cancer. The dead end is not a failure of effort, but a mismatch between the tool and the disease. Here is what reset the compass. Many of the deadliest ovarian cancers do not begin in the ovary. They begin in the adjacent fallopian tubes, the narrow passages that carry an egg toward the uterus and that serve no known purpose once a woman has finished having kids. Preventing ovarian cancer by removing the ovaries has always been possible in principle, but it exacts a heavy toll. The ovaries produce hormones that protect bone, heart, and brain. Surgical menopause in a younger woman carries lasting cost, increased risk of fracture, heart attack, and dementia with aging. Post-reproductive fallopian tube removal, called salpingectomy, does not require the same sacrifice. For a woman finished with childbearing, it means parting with a fertility organ that has no other known purpose, and it cuts her risk of the most common deadly form of ovarian cancer by 50%. A 2026 cohort study from British Columbia reported an even larger reduction, close to 80%, for high-grade serous ovarian cancer, the deadliest and most common form. Removing the tubes during hysterectomy or in place of a tubal ligation has become standard gynecologic care. The question is what happens outside the gynecologist operating room. Every day, women electively undergo surgery for hernias, gallbladder disease, and colorectal conditions when they are already under anesthesia and a surgeon is already in the abdomen. For women who have completed childbearing and who want ovarian cancer prevention, these operations could also be the moment to significantly lower the risk of a cancer that is now known to come from the fallopian tube, not the ovary, and has no effective screening test and remains largely incurable. There are good reasons why access to this surgery has not broadened beyond gynecology. Surgeons elsewhere may not be trained to perform it. The counseling takes time no one has budgeted, and until recently, the procedure cannot even be billed properly. None of these is a scientific problem. They are problems of training, time, and reimbursement, the ordinary machinery of medicine that determines whether a proven idea ever reaches a patient. These barriers are not trivial, but they are surmountable. Over the past 5 years, we have systematically worked on running down these problems. In this marathon, the time is nearing when the last mile will require surgeons across specialties to ask a second question before operating. Not only how do we fix what we brought this patient here for, but what else can we offer her to thoughtfully and safely reduce her future risk of cancer? This is something women should be able to choose. After a conversation most of them have never been offered. Cancer prevention opportunities are rare. When one presents itself safely during an operation a patient is already having, we have a responsibility to consider it. This movement has a name: Outsmart Ovarian Cancer. It has been spearheaded by Johns Hopkins Medicine, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and also MD Anderson Cancer Center. And it has a single goal: making concurrent fallopian tube removal a routine and reimbursable part of care rather than an aspirational idea. The patient we cared for recently came in expecting relief from a hernia. She got that. She also left with a peace of mind knowing she faces a substantially lower lifetime risk of ovarian cancer. She will never know whether that decision was one that spared her. Neither will we. That is the paradox of prevention. Its greatest success are invisible. No patient celebrates the heart attack that never happened. No family gathers to mark the stroke avoided. And no one is thanked for the cancer that never formed. Medicine has long measured itself by its ability to rescue people from disease. It should also measure itself by the disease that never occurs. For ovarian cancer, the only thing better than a cure is never needing a cure in the first place. The choice we have hoped to offer women is finally within reach. Making sure every woman has this choice to make belongs to all of us. You are listening to reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 37 minutes after the hour, and we move over to the USA Today Money section for Friday, which, as we have become accustomed to, is the Travel and Tourism section. And we have a piece written by Christopher Elliott. He's a USA Today travel editor, and it's entitled Time to Tour Like a Tourist. Again, Damien Zouawi used to be a true believer in living like a local. He scoured online listings for authentic-looking apartments in up-and-coming neighborhoods, shopped at local markets, and tried his best to blend in. Then came the trip to Lisbon that changed everything. His street, located in a quiet residential neighborhood, had lost its bakery. The local barbershop was gone too, replaced with boutique rentals and overpriced brunch spots catering to people like me, recalls Zouawi, the co-founder of a wellness company in Denver. Then he witnessed the argument. I watched my host get into a shouting match with his neighbor over yet another guest rolling suitcase clattering down the cobblestones, he recalls. That moment hit hard. Zouawi realized he was not a visitor, but part of an invading force. For the last decade, the travel industry's golden rule has been to live like a local. Shun the tourist traps, skip the hotels, and embed yourself in residential enclaves to find true authenticity. I have had a front row seat to this gentrification with a passport. I am on the road 350 days a year, often staying in rental apartments. In fact, I'm writing this from an Airbnb in Newmarket, a neighborhood in Auckland, and it's located between a car repair shop and a Chinese grocery store. So much for authenticity. Let's stop this disruptive force before it ruins the summer of 2026. Experts say it displaces residents inflates housing costs, and ruins the neighborhoods you claim to love. Maybe the most ethical and enjoyable way to travel now is to stop pretending you live there and embrace your status as a tourist. The problem with living like a local is simple math. When everyone does it, no locals are left. Tourists push out the very communities they claim to love. Daniel Gutentag, a professor at the College of Charleston, says this desire is silly. Tourists do not want the reality of local life, the rush hour commute, the cooking, the school run. They want the backdrop without the burden. The cost of this fantasy is real housing. Short-term rentals strip homes for the market. A McGill University study found that in Canada's largest cities, landlords removed nearly 14,000 homes from the long-term market to serve tourists. In New York City, as many as 14,000 housing units vanished into the short-term rental void, driving up rents for actual residents by hundreds of dollars a year. Jennifer Kaplan, a sustainability strategist, argues you cannot find an authentic experience in a hollowed-out neighborhood. When authenticity becomes commercialized at scale, she says, it loses its authenticity by definition. So why do we persist? Ego. Thomas Plant, a psychology professor at Santa Clara University, suggests we are driven by virtue signaling and narcissism. We want to feel superior to the masses on the tour bus. We want to be travelers, not tourists. But by refusing to visit the places built for us, we destroy the places built for others. The alternative is the one thing we are trained to avoid, the tourist trap. Urban planners and sustainable tourism experts argue that designated tourist areas, often derided as traps, act as necessary protective barriers for a destination. They concentrate the noise, the trash, and the crowds in areas designed to handle them, leaving residential neighborhoods for, the residents. Tourist places are tourist places for a reason, says Alex Vika, the founder of Vibe Adventures. They have the infrastructure, the permits, the tax laws, and workers trained to handle mobs. In fragile ecosystems, these zones are vital. Shishir Dubey, who runs Jungle Revives in India, learned this the hard way. Early in his travels, he chased authentic off-grid jungle stays, hiring local jeeps and camping in buffer zones. I got lost for hours and nearly died of thirst, Dubey recalls. A near-miss elephant charge was my wake-up. Pretending to be local endangered everyone. Now, he sticks to official zones and licensed guides. Tourism infrastructure is not a trap, he adds. It's a lifeline. So how can you be a good tourist? If you want to avoid gentrification with a passport, you don't have to give up on culture. You just need to change your approach. Why not act like a tourist and a local? Asked Thomas Swick, author of the memoir Falling into Place. Stay in a hotel, but eat where the local eats. Visit the sites one day and explore neighborhoods the next. Embracing both identities will result in a broader and richer experience. And here's how to do it. Stay in a hotel. They are created for visitors. They employ locals, pay commercial taxes, and have security. Hotels exist for travelers, Zawawi says. They don't displace families or schools. Next, hire licensed guides. A good concierge or tour guide will steer you to places that want visitors and away from fragile blocks, says Justin Brown, a frequent traveler based in Singapore. And visit the landmarks. There's no shame in seeing the Eiffel Tower or the Colosseum. These icons are in tourist areas, and your ticket price often supports their conservation. Dropping the so-called local facade is liberating. You no longer have to worry if you are annoying the neighbors or inadvertently raising the rent. I have started to enjoy the classics, Zuawi told me. When I was in Rome last, I walked to the Trevi Fountain at sunrise with a cappuccino in hand, and it was magical. No guilt, no awkward play acting, just the joy of being exactly what I was, a visitor. He's right. The most respectful way to travel is to stop faking it. Stop the gentrification with a passport. Some places weren't meant for you. They're meant to be seen, appreciated, and then left to the people who actually call them home. And here's a question you might be asking, written by Nathan Diller. Survey ranks Denver the first for domestic flight deals. Finding cheap flights can be a matter of both where you're going and who takes you there. Going released its 2026 top airports and airlines for flight deals on August 17th. The analysis was based on a review of more than 45,000 routes at U.S. airports. A single cheap fare doesn't tell the whole story, Willis Orlando, flight expert at Going, said in a news release. With most travel headlines featuring affordability right now, we built these rankings around what actually matters to travelers. Not just the price of the ticket, but how deep the discount is and how good a deal comes around, and how often a good deal comes around. An airport that has one amazing fare a year isn't as valuable to travelers as one that delivers solid deals every week. So, what are the top airports for flight deals? According to Going, Denver International Airport was the top airport for domestic flight deals. That was followed by Louis Armstrong New Orleans International in second place, while Orlando International came in third. Airport rankings were based on a weighted score that took average deal savings on full-service airlines, average price, and deal volume into account. Denver, New Orleans, and Orlando got there in different ways, but the through line is the same in that more competition means lower fares. In Denver, United and Southwest are locked in a fare war with Frontier. In New Orleans, Southwest and Breeze are doing the same, on top of rising leisure demand. And in Orlando, all those planes flying in for theme parks have to fly back out, so locals benefit from that extra capacity too. For bargains on international flights, Boston's Logan International took the top spot, with New York's JFK landing in second place, and Newark Liberty International came in third. The three airports are the country's primary East Coast gateways to international travel. On the flip side, Honolulu's Inouye International Airport, Maui's Kahului Airport, and Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport saw the fewest deals for domestic flights. And for international flights, Kahului Airport and Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport also ranked in the bottom three, along with Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area. Based on Going deal frequency, American Airlines came in first for domestic flights, followed by Delta Airlines and Southwest. United Airlines rounded out the top four, with Alaska Airlines and Hawaiian Airlines in fifth place. JetBlue came in sixth. Going did not analyze budget airlines such as Avelo Airlines and Breeze Airways, including only full-service carriers. While American takes the cake for the most deals, it's really the big three, plus Southwest, all landing in the same ballpark, Orlando said. That is steep competition and fare wars at work, and those are exactly what drive the best deals for travelers. When it comes to international flights, United, American, and Delta snagged the top three spots. Those were followed by Air Canada, British Airways and JetBlue. And as summer winds down, quick piece here, summer getaways that beat the heat. The Northeast offers some cool spots to visit. First, we have Nantucket, Massachusetts. Long considered a fashionable summer home for New England's rich and famous, tiny Nantucket is like an island out of time off the coast of Massachusetts. With its cobblestone streets and charming old port center, the pace of life here is dictated more by cool summer breezes than busy summer schedules. Low-key highlights include strolling the Sconset Bluff Walk, picnicking on beautiful beaches, a whale watching tour, and enjoying a sunset cruise from the harbor. For active weekend or midweek warriors, Nantucket offers miles upon miles of bike paths and nearly endless opportunities for paddling. Kayak and bike rentals are in no short supply on the island. Next, we have the southern Maine coast. When it's steamy hot in Boston or New York, chances are it's cool and comfortable along the southern Maine coast. Average summer temps in the scenic towns of Ogunquit, Wells, and Cape Nettic are about 10 degrees cooler than nearby tourist spots like Portland and Kennebunkport, which makes this lovely locale a popular spot for Northeast summer vacations. With summer highs usually topping out in the mid-70s, these postcard-perfect New England coastal towns and seaside villages are an ideal spot to keep cool and take in the down-home Maine charm and treat yourself to a lobster roll. It's easy to get on the water, enjoy public beaches, and stroll around historic villages on the southern Maine coast. And next we have Bar Harbor and Acadia National Park in Maine. Head to the very tip of northern Maine for spectacular scenery, fresh seafood, and warm, but not too warm summer weather. There's plenty to do on and around the water in Bar Harbor. Sea kayaking is a favorite here, and when you're tired of the ocean, head to northern Maine's mighty peaks for some crisp alpine air, not to mention epic sunrises for the early birds. In nearby Acadia National Park, one of the best bang for your buck affordable family vacation destinations in the entire country, you can explore more than 100 miles of trails and old carriage roads, many of them shaded by ancient trees that nicely protect you from the summer heat. And we have Lake Placid and the Adirondack Mountains right here in good old New York State. In Lake Placid, summer temperatures average in the low to mid-70s for the months of June, July, and August. And while this quiet little resort town will always be known for its Winter Olympics glory, Lake Placid and the surrounding Adirondack Mountains are about as cool and low-key a summer destination as you will find in the region. There's no shortage of things to do here either. With countless upscale hotels and fine dining restaurants, a cute downtown with shops and cafes, several historic Olympic sites to visit, state parks, more mountain trails than you can shake a hiking stick at, and plenty of gentle ponds and lakes for canoeing or kayaking, your only regret will be that your summer getaway isn't longer. And then we have Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. With seasonal highs in the low 70s, Cape Breton Island off the Atlantic coast of Canada is perfect for an extended summer getaway. It's also one of Canada's most popular family vacation spots. Part of the appeal, beyond the spectacular natural beauty and rich Celtic tradition of Nova Scotia, is the fun of getting here. While Cape Breton is reachable by both air and car, the most enjoyable way to get your cool northeast summer getaway is by high-speed ferry from Bar Harbor, Maine, aboard the Cat to Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. From there, it's a long but exceptionally scenic drive to your final getaway destination on the island. Once on Cape Breton, the highlights are almost all natural. Rugged coastline, deep forest, and marine wildlife watching are among the top things to experience on Cape Breton. You will want to rent a car or drive your own for this cool summer getaway so you can experience the famed Cabot Trail, a loop road that circles the most scenic parts of the island. Outdoor lovers should plan to tackle the easy Skyline Trail footpath inside Cape Breton Highlands National Park. The trail overlooks the Gulf of St. Lawrence. If your getaway is an extended one, plan an overnight trip to take in Prince Edward Island as well. Boy, they all sound great to me. I love the Adirondack Mountains and been to Lake Placid many times, many times. It is beautiful, and now I'm getting the itch to take a trip. You are listening to reading of articles and features from USA Today for Friday, August 21st on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We will return for more readings after this short break. Your reader for this hour has been me, Chet Walczyk. I'm glad you were able to join me. I hope you have a great summer weekend. Take some time to get out, relax, have a cool drink, and have some fun. We got a lot of good weather left ahead of us. We'll see you the next time.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have History Magazine from our friends at Mind's Eye. At 2 o'clock is episode number 2 of We the Women by Nora O'Donnell. And at 3 o'clock is New York Magazine. Stay with us.
articles from today's issue of the USA Today. Your reader for this hour is Nancy. Life section, which is section B. Music. Sugarland takes its ride on the road, from Althea Versa. As Sugarland prepares for its ride or die tour this fall, Jennifer Nettles is recalling a specific piece of advice a country music A-lister gave the band early on in its journey. I remember very specifically Brad Paisley saying to us, "In your band, one bad apple can spoil the bunch." Nettles, age 51, tells USA Today alongside her bandmate Christian Bush. Nettles says Paisley added, "If you have someone out on the road with you in the band or in your crew that energetically doesn't want to be there, and it's obvious, move on." Nettles and Bush credit Paisley, along with Keith Urban, Kenny Chesney, and Brooks and Dunn, for showing them the ropes when it came to performing in large venues. Acts didn't just offer advice, they sometimes lent production help to alleviate some of Sugarland's touring expenses as a supporting act. Now, Sugarland will return to the road as headliners on a 26-city tour to mark the 20-year-old anniversary of the duo's sophomore album, Enjoy the Ride. The tour kicks off October 1st in St. Augustine, Florida, and wraps up November 21st, Grand Prairie, Texas. Enjoy the Ride was the first release after the group parted ways with founding member Kristen Hall. While neither addresses Hill's departure specifically, it reportedly was contentious, Nettles and Bush do remember learning to trust one another. Bush was thankful for Nettles' partnership, and Nettles felt that they both had a lot to prove. Without mentioning any one person, Nettles says that sadly in this business, they're waiting on you to fall sometimes. So we ourselves as songwriters, it was very validating that Enjoy the Ride did as well as it did and continued to launch us forward in our career, because that was a very transitional time for us, Nettles continues. The album's lead single, Want To, was Sugarland's first Billboard #1, topping the Hot Country Song chart. The second single, Settling, followed suit, and the album went on to sell more than 3 million copies in the United States. Is Sugarland signed to Big Machine Records? When it comes to the music industry, many things have changed since Enjoy the Ride in 2006, including the Sugarland's record label. The LP was released on Mercury Nashville in 2018. The group released the album Bigger through a joint venture between Universal Music Group Nashville and Big Machine Records. That LP included the track Babe, which featured vocals and was co-written by then Big Machine artist Taylor Swift. The following year, Sugarland moved exclusively to Big Machine. The group released an EP, There Goes the Neighborhood, in 2024. But now, Nettles and Bush reveal that Sugarland is independent. I would never scoff at that, Bush, age 56, says of Sugarland recording and releasing music independently. The world we walked into 20 years ago when we were doing Enjoy the Ride, we walked into a very small keyhole. You had to fit these ideas through in order to get them. Specifically, the relationship between country radio and music artists has allowed those songs to travel to people you'll never meet and in places you might never even be able to tour, according to Bush. Although the medium can still accomplish that, Bush notes how the changing landscape affects musicians in the studio. Now, when I'm working with new artists, I keep telling them, you can do anything. It's not whether it sounds like it should be on the radio anymore, but how does it make you feel? And that's the only judgment call, he continues. Sugarland compares its beginnings to today's artists. Bush has been an in-demand songwriter and producer in Nashville, notably producing all three of singer Megan Moroney's albums. The trifecta of LPs was released within a blistering 3-year span, in which Bush says Moroney released nearly 70 songs. For comparison, Sugarland released its first 3 albums over a 4-year span. Bush says that while Moroney's pace was encouraged by her record label, Sugarland initially was told by some they were moving way too fast and might not pull it off. It just makes me want to scream, Nettles adds, of the current situation that artists face in an ever-changing business model that includes streaming revenues and catalog ownership. Is the new music because the fans are demanding it, or is it that because the machine now is based off revenue from catalog? And so they want as much as they can, as fast as they can, Bush interjects, before simply acknowledging that he doesn't know the answer. So many things have changed. What's cool to me is to have my finger on. What hasn't changed, Bush says. What stays exactly the same? Well, come to the show. You'll find out. Streaming, news and views. Panettiere's cruise is heartbreaking to watch, from Patrick Ryan. Hayden Panettiere could always light up the screen. The resilient Scream actress, who died August 16th at age 36, brought infectious warmth and deep vulnerability to everything she touched, whether as a child star in A Bug's Life and Remember the Titans, or as a young woman in TV's Heroes and Nashville. But perhaps her most underrated performance is in Tiger Cruise, streaming on Disney+, an oft-forgotten Disney Channel original movie set on an aircraft carrier during the September 11th attacks. The patriotic family drama first aired in 2004, with a rah-rah message of duty and courage that undoubtedly was fueled by the Iraq War. The film follows a broody, artistic teen named Maddie, played by Panettiere, who agrees to join her U.S. Navy commander dad, Gary, played by Bill Pullman, for a week-long cruise from Hawaii to California aboard the USS Constellation. Each year, the Navy hosts military families aboard the carrier, where they get to learn what life is like for active service members. Maddie resents that her father has missed almost her entire childhood, and she makes the trip with the express purpose of convincing him to come home. Gary remorsefully agrees, that is, until 9/11 happens, and he decides that he needs to be there for his country and his crew should the Constellation be called to the front lines. The film ends with Maddie telling her dad that she ultimately doesn't want him to quit, even as she fears for his safety. In the last moments, she learns to salute, helps unfurl an American flag, and proudly embraces the label of Navy brat. In many ways, Tiger Cruise is a bizarre cultural artifact, better remembered for its shoddy use of green screens and frequent declarations that the U.S. Navy is fully prepared to go into battle with 800 civilians on board. We can't let them interfere with their duties, Gary says at one point. But Panettiere, then 15, anchors the drama with a quietly soulful performance well beyond her years. For a kids' film, Tiger Cruise remarkably doesn't shy away from the horrific realities of September 11th, 2001. The movie features copious footage of Ground Zero and the planes hitting the Twin Towers as Gary breaks the news of the extremely grave situation to crying passengers, all of whom are desperate to get in touch with their loved ones. In one scene, Maddie gently comforts an elderly man whose brother was killed at the Pentagon when hijackers struck the building. In another, she thoughtfully listens to a New York teen who tearfully bemoans that the city he once knew well will never be the same again. Most crushingly, Panettiere shares multiple scenes with her real-life younger brother, Janine Panettiere, who died in 2023 at age 28 due to heart complications. The mop-haired actor plays Joey, a spunky boy on board who bonds with Maddie over having absent parents in the military. Panettiere tenderly conveys the turmoil of being a kid who's just trying to keep it together in the face of unthinkable circumstances. And watching Maddie's early scenes with her dad, it's hard not to be reminded of Panettiere relationship with her estranged mother, Leslie Vogel. In interviews in her 2026 memoir, This Is Me, A Reckoning, the Golden Globe nominee recalled how Vogel pushed her into action and modeling from the time she was an infant, and that she was everything but her child to her business-minded mom. We're strangers, Maddie pleads to Gary, unruffled and resolute even as she holds back tears. You're never here. I want a father who's there every day. Tiger Cruise is in some respects devastating to watch now, given what we know about the abuses and pressures that Panettiere faced as a young actress in Hollywood. Even as a teenager, she could more than hold her own with a screen giant like Pullman. And for a movie that's essentially Mouse House agitprop, her preternatural talent and honesty shines through. She even got to showcase her crystalline vocals in original song, My Hero Is You. After years of struggling with addictions and postpartum depression, Panettiere said repeatedly in her final months that she wanted to return to acting. This film is one of many heartbreaking reminders that she never got the chance. News and views from music. Foo Fighters fly in career-spanning concert, from Melissa Ruggieri. Dave Grohl has no off switch, but put the Foo Fighters' ecstatically manic frontman in front of more than 40,000 fans across the Potomac River from his hometown, and Grohl is like a race car with the gas pedal locked down. At the August 17th stop at Nationals Park in Washington, on the band's Take Cover Stadium excursion, Grohl and his equally vigorous handmates stampeded through a 3-hour tour of the Foo's brawny catalog. But as the head Foo, Goebel was the tireless centerpiece, albeit one who sounded like he might burst a vocal cord at any moment, given the ferocity of his singing. But he's always been a bounce-back kind of guy, and his voice retains the same type of elasticity. There may be a little more gray in Grohl's goatee, but don't equate that with waning stamina. Before the last notes of show opener All My Life were played, Grohl was drenched in sweat, his long hair flying, his legs sprinting down the lengthy catwalk. After a 32-year existence, the band has such a reservoir of rockers, both melodic and headbanging, that they can reel off The Predator, Times Like These, My Hero, and Learn to Fly within the first 7 offerings, and still have more than 20 songs left to uncork, though this date did not feature anything from their current album, Your Favorite Toy. Grohl embraced playing a hometown show. Guitarist Chris Shefflett and Pat Smear, keyboardist Rami Jaffrey, bassist Nate Mendel, and new drummer Eileen Rubin, a boulders behind the kit, kept pace with the relentless energy of the show, which unfolded under a canopy of frenzied lights and 3 video screens, offering close-ups of the musicians sweltering in the humid air. Aside from a 2015 20th anniversary gig at Ready to Be Raised, RFK Stadium, the Foos have mostly hit arenas and intimate specialty shows in the area. Grohl made mention of the enormity of this stadium production and clearly was jazzed to be near his Northern Virginia roots. He grew up in the suburb of Springfield and talked about writing Stacked Actors in the nearby haven of Old Town in Alexandria, while also dedicating the pretty these days to his friends and family in attendance. Following an aggressive No Son of Mine featuring a snippet of Motorhead's Ace of Spades and powered by the velocity of Rubin's drumming, the band finally took a breath an hour into the show. Foo Fighters are equally riveting in the quiet moments. Gathered at a B-stage setup at the end of the catwalk, the Foos spotlighted the melodies lurking within the heavy riffs and banshee screams. "Let's shift gears," Grohl said, tucking his sopping hair behind his ears. "I'm 57 years old. I'm going to play an acoustic song." The four-song set was highlighted by Grohl doing a shot of Jägermeister with a woman whose daughter caught his attention with a sign. "After all these years, I've never done a shot with my mom in the front row before," Grohl quipped, but also some riveting material. Marigold, written when Grohl first moved to Seattle and lived with Kurt Cobain, was the B-side to Nirvana's Heart-Shaped Box in 1993 and offered striking grunge-era guitar. While the poppy bounce of Big Me is always welcome, it was Grohl's solo performance of Under You that resonated with the deepest. Written after the 2022 death of drummer and friend Taylor Hawkins, the song felt like a moment of catharsis for Grohl, the emotion in his voice audible, and his guitar playing an exorcism of emotional pain. The Foos returned to their crunch rock with the 2017 deep cut La-Di-Da for the OGs, Grohl yelled, paired with the even heavier Run from the same Concrete and Gold album. Foo Fighters are still going full throttle. Throughout this North American leg of the tour, which began the first week of August and will pause for a few weeks before returning September 12th for another spate of shows, the Foos have delivered unique band introductions. Given the rock bona fides of the musicians, the rule is simple. Each player had to perform a song from a band they were in before Foo Fighters. The format was an amusing detour as the crowd heard from Shiflett, No Use for a Name, Jeffy from the Wallflowers, Mendel from Sunny Day Real Estate, and Smear, the Germs, and Rubin, the New Regime. The setup was an ideal segue into the final act of the show that included the bruising Monkey's Wrench and, as usual in the Foos' recent sets, a more obvious tribute to Hawkins with the lovely Aurora. After 3 decades, the Foos are firmly in legacy territory and among the veterans still packing stadiums. But differentiates them from some of their peers is the unyielding pace of their live shows, all of it delivered with the grinning joy of playing rock and roll. The switch is most definitely still on. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 32 minutes after the hour. Movies. Spa Weekend stars flex female power from Aaron Jensen. When Jack Pratt, Anna Faris's son, with ex-husband Chris Pratt, visited his mom on the set of her latest comedy, Spa Weekend, he made a shocking discovery. Pratt, now 14, observed Faris with her co-star, Michelle Buteau, Isla Fisher, and Leslie Mann, with whom she bonded on location on Australia's Gold Coast. He said, "Mom, you have friends?" Ferris recalls laughing at the film's world premiere at the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas. "Because I'm a bit of a hermit. I do have some dear childhood friends that I trust and love, but it's the logistics of this time in life. Time to connect with others vanishes as life's responsibilities pile up, which is exactly what Spa Weekend speaks to. In the movies, in theaters, August 21st, three friends since childhood book a few days at a resort, looking to shuck their obligations and relax. Sophie, played by Ferris, is at the beck and call of a nightmarish boss. In between being an attorney, single mom, and caregiver, Jane, played by Mann, struggles to find any time for herself, and Coco, played by Buteau, is battling her own rage and resentment amid a divorce. Their outrageous friend, Mel, played by Fisher, crashes the weekend and gets the foursome in trouble with the spa's owner, Shanti, Erica Haynetz. Directors and co-writers Scott Moore and John Lucas, who also wrote The Hangover and Bad Moms, were inspired by their hard-working wives. "What is wish fulfillment for you? What would you really like?" Moore remembers asking. And they're like, "I just would say a day to myself, maybe with my friends and a book by the pool." They just wanted a break. So that was sort of the gem of this. But then we thought that might be a little bit of a boring movie. So we're like, "You're going to get that for 2 minutes, and then we're going to tear it up." "There's something a little bit silly about spa culture," Lucas says. "It felt like a very sort of fertile ground for a place that took itself maybe a little too seriously, for us to have fun with making fun of it." Filming on location in Australia forced more friendships. Paris, age 49, says at the premiere, "We hung out more and we got to know each other, and that felt really, really special." The following day, Ferris joins her female co-stars for an interview, in which Fisher also speaks to the cast's closeness. "We definitely got into a lot of intimate conversations," Fisher, age 50, says. "You lost your home in the fire," Fisher says, referring to Ferris's house in the Pacific Palisades, which burned in the 2025 wildfires. "I had gone through a divorce," from Sacha Baron Cohen. "We came together, and it was such a beautiful celebration." Fisher believes it's hard to find space for me. In Spa Weekend, an ab-bearing yoga teacher named Kay, played by Adam Bemos, flirts with Jane and asks what she does for herself. When asked the same question, Fisher says she finds fulfillment in her job, and Mann, age 54, and Buteau, age 49, agree. Fisher makes improv look easy, Ferris says, but Fisher confesses to spending a lot of time on her craft. "I actually write the jokes at home," she says. "These ladies don't know that I spent like 7 hours writing everything out." "Do you?" Buteau asks. "Yeah, I'm a real loser," Fisher says. "I literally think of every version of everything in my head 1,000 times. I always feel like it's hard to find space for me. So I think if I'm really prepared, then I just have to go really quickly and just get it all out." On Spa Weekend, they wanted us to be funny, Fisher adds. "It was such an amazing gift." It might be startling to hear that Fisher, who broke through as the original Stage 5 clinger in Wedding Crashers more than 20 years ago, has trouble finding room to flourish. Similarly, Ferris, known for playing Cindy in the Scary Movie franchise and quirky comedies, including Just Friends and The House Bunny, would like more autonomy in her career. "I want to be able to choose projects that I feel really passionate about," she says. "I do think that I've made career choices out of fear, and it'd be nice moving forward, but not to do that. I hope for myself and confidence." Buteau wishes all women felt self-assured. "What I would like for women in general is just to say what they need without sounding sorry or apologetic. Or like, it's a question mark at the end, she says. And you don't always have to say thank you. You can just leave with a you're welcome. Buteau's plea to film fans, female stories matter. Both producer Suzanne Todd and Buteau made comments at the premiere about the lack of movie centered on women. Please tell all your friends and tell all your friends to tell their friends, Buteau asked the audience. Because we really want people to see this movie. Like Suzanne said, female stories matter. We matter, especially in a time right now. I don't want to get all Rachel Maddow on your ass, but when our bodies are being policed, it's up to us to tell our stories the way we can, and to have fun and bring home that paycheck. Their remarks earned cheers and applause, which delighted Demas. I love that reaction, he says. I hope that movies like ours, because I'm super proud of it and it's fun, inspire more to get made, too. I'm raised by a single mom, and I'm an only child. I couldn't be more behind stories like this. So now it's section C, which is sports. Arsenal kicks off EPL title defense. The Premier League is back as the English top flight kicks off the 26-27 campaign on August 21st. For the first time in 22 years, Arsenal enters the season looking to defend its title after the Gunners ended a long drought last season. Though Arsenal will be favored to retain its title, these are a host of top sides that are aiming to challenge Mikel Arteta this season. There's also plenty of intrigue at the other end of the table, as well as across the entire division. Here are 5 of the biggest questions we have entering the new Premier League season. Can anybody stop Arsenal? After 3 state runner-up finishes, Mikel Arteta's side finally got over the hump last season, winning the league for the first time in 22 years. Now Arsenal looks exceedingly well placed to repeat. For one, the Gunners have only strengthened ahead of the season. Bruno Guimaraes and Christos Salas look like great additions, while only Leandro Trossard can be considered a core player departing. In addition, all of Arsenal's title challengers carry huge question marks. Manchester City, the biggest thorn in Arsenal's side in recent seasons, saw longtime coach Pep Guardiola and star midfielder Rodri depart. Liverpool is now under new management again. So too is Chelsea, which barely finished in the top half of the table last season. Manchester United also has question marks at manager. It appears to be Arsenal's title to lose. How will Man City fare after Pep Guardiola? For the first time in 10 years, Manchester City will open a season without Guardiola as manager. The legendary Spaniard departed after last season, having won 20 major trophies during his time in charge. In Guardiola's place comes his former assistant, Enzo Maresca, who inherits a team filled with stars, but in the midst of a generational change after losing foundational players like Rodri, John Stones, and Bernardo Silva. Though Guardiola has to be credited for much of City's success over the last decade, the club is also one of the richest in the world and has amassed a squad of elite talent. Can Maresca pick up where his predecessor left off? Can Xabi Alonso stop the rot at Chelsea? Despite a massive amount of investment, Chelsea has not managed to finish higher than 4th since Bluco took over as owners in 2022. Last season saw Chelsea sink all the way to 10th, in another disappointing campaign. But the Blues pulled off something of a coup by hiring Xabi Alonso as the club's fourth manager of 2026. Alonso established himself as one of Europe's best young managers while winning the Bundesliga at Bayer Leverkusen. A rough half-season at Real Madrid didn't do much to damage his reputation. As usual, Chelsea has a massive squad, and as usual, is full of talent. Alonso may be the man to finally get the best out of the Blues. Can the promoted sides revive? After all three promoted teams went down back-to-back campaigns last season, saw some pleasant surprises in the form of Sunderland, which is in 7th place, and Leeds, 14th place. So how will newcomers Hull City, Coventry City, and Ipswich Town fare? If there's any team that'll be lucky to survive, it's Hull City. Somehow the Tigers achieved promotion despite finishing 23rd out of 24 championship teams by expected goal differences last season. They will likely need that luck again to avoid a swift return to the second tier. Coventry is back in the Premier League for the first time in 25 years, led by manager Frank Lombardi. Unlike Hull, the Sky Blues dominated the championship last year and fully deserve their promotion. But they'll need some of their key players from last season to step up while seamlessly blending new signings like Caleb Urensky and Taiwo Awanki. Ipswich bounced off straight back after being relegated in 24-25. But without inspirational manager Kieran McKenna, the Tractor Boys will face a major challenge to stay up. Will the meatball era end? It was a common sight across the Premier League last season. Players would crowd together in the 6-yard box ahead of a corner kick, pushing and shoving as they jostled for position. The so-called meat wall led to set pieces, according for 25.7% of the league's goals, the highest across Europe's divisions. Arsenal in particular took advantage of this hack, scoring a league-high 25 goals off set pieces en route to the title. But the Premier League is looking to crack down on tactic, instructing referees to focus on holding tactics. How will the teams adjust? You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 48 minutes after the hour. Here's a commentary. NCAA lit match. Panics over the fire. From Matt Hayes. This is hilarious. Now we've reached the point of no return. Now. Not when universities hoarded media rights cash for decades, before finally being forced by the courts to share with players. Not when universities stole a year of eligibility from transferring players for decades, before being finally forced by the courts to allow free movement. Not when the NCAA for decades made random decisions regarding specific, significant bylaws, before being forced by the courts to change course. So now that yet another hometown judge in another case against the NCAA on August 19th forced college sports governing body to again see the error of its ways, now that the NFL and college football are essentially competing for players, now it's a bridge too far. Where have you people been for the last 5 years? Better yet, where were the current and latest group of whiners decrying it all unsuitable and unsustainable when the NCAA, in its infinite wisdom, decided weeks ago to choose and pick sides and declare which players from the 2022 class could be grandfathered in to the new 5 years to play 5 seasons rule, and which couldn't? Until, of course, a Louisiana judge said Are you out of your mind? You can't give some players a fifth season and exclude others. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but that's about how it has unfolded for the NCAA in nearly every single court case of the name, image, and likeness, the NIL era. They made a dumb decision based on pre-NIL era thinking, where the NCAA had the upper hand in just about every argument, and the courts ride in on their white horse and save the day by denying it. My God, these men and women of higher dictation, these elite of academia leading the NCAA, can't be this short-sighted. They simply can't be this attached to the days and ways of the past. And I'm not talking about the actual NIL era explosion. I'm talking about legal arguments. Used to be the NCAA used the Dean Smith plan, the Four Corners basketball stall, when dealing with any and all legal issues. They'd paper to death any defendant, hoping to drain them of funds so they'd give up and or settle out of court, and it worked for ages. Until, that is, the NCAA decided in 2021 that allowing athletes to earn off their name, image, and likeness was a smarter move than sharing media rights revenue. Someone, however, decided athletes wouldn't eventually come for the media rights, billions, because they'd have the ability to earn NIL funds. Only those NIL funds suddenly became the big money, in addition to the universities being forced to share media rights revenue, and it's impacted every structural and financial aspect of the organization. Every move the NCAA has made since 2021, since the states of California and Florida passed laws allowing athletes to earn NIL money and formed the NCAA's hand, has been an utter disaster for the future of the organization. And now we're shocked that 16 players in a Louisiana court were given the ability to return to college football, even though some are currently on NFL training camp rosters. Is that really more ridiculous, more unthinkable than anything else over the last 5 years? This nonsense won't end here, and certainly won't end at some point next month when Congress returns from its summer break and attempts to work together to pass the Protect College Sports Act, which may or may not protect college sports anyway, to say that nothing of getting a majority in the House and Senate to pass the damn thing. The problem now is the same problem 5 years ago when the NCAA first rolled out NIL without a plan and hoped for the best. They rolled a snowball from the top of the mountain and didn't think it would gain steam, and got bigger and bigger and unwieldy on the way down. Now here we are, and college football teams are financially competing with NFL teams for players. If you think it's going to end here, you're wildly mistaken. Because once the door opens for players to leave for the NFL and come back, the next logical move is a local judge allowing future players with eligibility to return to college football if they don't make an NFL roster. All because the brilliant minds of academia are afraid of collective bargaining. Now that's hilarious. McElroy gives POY thumbs up to Scheffler, from Adam Shupik. What was shaping up to be one of the most tightly contested votes in years for PGA Tour Players of the Year heading into the FedEx Cup playoffs may already be over, at least in the mind of Rory McIlroy. The Masters champion was posed a question that the questioner on the front end deemed to be a loaded one. If a player won the Masters and the Tour Championship, would that make for a Player of the Year resume? The implication, of course, was could McIlroy still walk off with the Jack Nicklaus Award, voted on by his fellow members, should he win next week in Atlanta and claim the FedEx Cup for a record fourth time? No, McElroy said with a chuckle. August 19th, ahead of the BMW Championship. I'm not the player of the year. No chance. Scotty is. McElroy already was set to concede the award to world number one Scotty Scheffler, who is seeking to win it for a fifth consecutive year. Well, sorry, that's 2 weeks to go, but I firsthand watched him for the first 2 days last week. And if he keeps playing like that, if he gains 9 strokes on the greens every week, we're all in trouble, McElroy said. Scheffler's brilliance was on display for all to see as he rolled to an 8-stroke victory at the FedEx St. Jude Championship in Memphis. His 17 under par total made him the only player to reach double digits under par. But Scheffler, age 30, has just 2 wins, the other being the American Express, after notching at least 5 in each of the previous 2 seasons. In between, he's been a picture of consistency, recording 17 top 25 finishes in 18 starts, including 5 runner-ups, which ties for the most in a season in the last 40 years. But Mark Fitzpatrick has more wins, 3, including defeating Scheffler in a sudden death playoff at the RBC Heritage, a signature event. Chris Gottrop also is a 3-time winner, but those wins came at the Sony Open in Hawaii, WM Phoenix Open, and John Deere Classic, which were full field events that didn't attract as many of the stars. Still, what if he were to win the BMW and Tour Championship for a grand total of 5? A strong case could be made for Cameron Young, winner of the Players, where he'd edged Matt Fitzpatrick, and Cadillac Championship, another signature event, being the POY winner. Let's not forget Wyndham Clark, who won the U.S. Open and bested Scheffler at the CJ Cup Byron Nielsen to match his win total. Majors could and should be weighed differently by votes. Usually, this award is settled by the time the final major has been contested, such as last year when Scheffler claimed 2 majors and it was a runaway winner. This year, the FedEx Cup may make a difference in the voting. While McElroy's decision has been made, Adam Scott seemed very on the fence as he discussed his voting options last spring. I'd say we all value consistency, and obviously Scotty's done an amazing job of that, he said before Scheffler's win at the St. Jude. He only has 1 win, but he's crushing everyone in points. So there's something to be said about that. Out here, there's also something to be said about winning too, and majors and all that good stuff. I honestly don't know. I really don't. It really depends on what the person that's clicking the button value more, or who they may like more, he said. There's no bad answer, is what I'm trying to say. Shader Sanders has own point of view, from Jared Bell. One of the first things discovered during a quick visit with Shader Sanders is that there is no unintended free pub coming from the primetime kid who is nobody's slouch when it comes to parlaying ball into brand new and bank. Sanders and the other quarterbacks have gone through the Cleveland Browns training camp with small cameras affixed above the face masks on their helmets. Let's call it a QB cam that conceivably provides another techie tool for further review. Tell me about the GoPro camera. Does it help in breaking things down? Man, my eyes work better than any camera out there, Sanders told USA Today Sports, standing at the edge of the field following a practice last week. So, you get no use from it? I close my eyes and think about what I thought in that situation, and I do it, he added. I'm curious because I haven't seen one of those. Sanders cuts it off right there, fella, flashing a wide Hollywood smile as he insisted, we ain't going GoPro, no free promo, man. LOL. Hey, it's big business. Football and brand identity. Sanders, age 24, is an all-pro when it comes to this. He earned $17.7 million from the NFL Players Association during his rookie season from group licensing deals, a record amount that nearly doubled the previous mark of $9.5 million achieved by Tom Brady. Yeah, that Tom Brady in 21-22. And this doesn't include a portfolio of individual endorsement deals with the likes of Nike, AT&T, Beats by Dre, Ralph Lauren, and Gatorade. This is in his DNA. A generation ago, Shader's father, Dion, was not only one of his era's most phenomenal athletes, but also a game changer when it came to marketing. Now, along comes the immensely popular son, with a knack for building a brand. Shoot, when Sanders was in his final year at Colorado, he reportedly had 14 name, image, and likeness deals worth $6.5 million, an amount that eclipsed the entire total of the first NFL contract he received 4 years, which was $4.45 million, after his tumble to the 5th round of the 2025 draft. Shader's battle to be quarterback one. Still, it's the other type of business that is top of his mind these days. Sanders is in the thick of a real competition against Deshaun Watson for the starting quarterback job. The legitimacy emphasized because a year ago it never seemed real when then-coach Kevin Stefanski called it a competition and will draw his first start of the summer, August 22nd, against the Buffalo Bills. He came off the bench for mixed results at Chicago last Saturday, including an ugly interception for which he lamented the execution. Now he'll go with the first team, which was always the plan for new coach Ted Monken. One starts the preseason opener, the other starts the next week. During camp, Monken has rolled similarly, alternating these days that Sanders and Watson work with the first team. Monken will likely make his call before the final preseason game against the New England Patriots on August 27th. Asked how he's flowing with this arrangement, Sanders said, "I took a deep breath of everything, just looked at everything for what it is, and how thankful I am for the chance to be out here every day and just maximize it. So that's all I focus on, my job and how I can improve each day and every day. Everything else will handle itself." Sanders allows that it's his goal to be a more complete quarterback, bolstered by a better understanding of the NFL game. That not only involves making plays and avoiding negative plays, but also demonstrates command of Monker's system and the ability to manage the operations of the offensive unit. Speeding up the process. Coaches have been harping on efficiency, aiming to reduce 8 seconds in the process from calling in the play to the quarterback's helmet to the snap of the football. The extra time would allow more time for the quarterback to decipher defenses and likely develop a better rhythm for executing plays. "It's good overall," Sanders said. "I think it helps you think fast, process fast. It's a great recipe to have success." How such flow fits a bigger picture was evident as the sloppiness of the offense, reflected by a rash of pre-snap penalties, became a hot topic during camp. No doubt a hot topic during camp. No doubt that's one way. Commit a false start, line up illegally, or not get the snap off in time to put a drive in the hole. But it's tough to put it on the quarterback when, say, a lineman jumps before the snap. Or so you'd think. Overall, as a quarterback, you are the leader of the team. So you've got to get everything straight, Sanders said. I mean, that's just where it stands. You can't really have those things happen on your watch. Speaking of vision, Sanders certainly gained some insight after starting games last season. Injury to fellow rookie Gabriel Dillon, who had a concussion, and other circumstances, the trade of veteran Joe Flacco, opened the door of opportunity. And Sanders showed enough. he won his first start, then finished strong in leading the Browns to back-to-back wins to set up his shot for this time around. Remember, Sanders trusts his eyes better than any camera, which underscored the lessons learned from his initial real-time NFL playing experiences. What did I get from 7 starts? My own point of view, he said. I don't think I'm a dumb human being, I think I'm very bright. So it was kind of like figuring the lay of the land, having a better understanding of everything. So, of course, when you first get me out there, you may get me. But when I'm prepared, when I have all these different variables of things that I can control, then I'll be able to put myself and the team in the best situation. The Monken factor. The connection with his new coach figures to be huge. Monken, age 60, embodies some old-school principles, for sure. But with an engaging, high-energy persona wrapped with unapologetic frankness, he seems quite capable of relating to today's athletes. He's cool, Sanders said. Exactly how he is on the podium is exactly how he is every day. He's the same. That's what I appreciate. He's the same every time, and he's just going to be authentically himself. I like that. It was striking, though, that Shader's Hall of Fame minted father, Dion, came to Brown's camp earlier this summer and visited with Monken before running his own camp to begin his 4th season as Colorado's coach. Go ahead, point to the optics of a father visiting his son's coach, which brings to mind one of the knocks I heard from at least 2 NFL decision-makers trying to explain why Sanders went from a projected first-rounder to the 5th round. They wondered whether Dion's presence would be a detriment. In this case, though, Shader added context in striking the perfect tone. I stay out of that stuff, he says. I don't focus on that. What him and Monken were talking about, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I've got to practice, and I've got plays I've got to execute every day, well armed, naturally, with some fatherly advice. He told me to handle mine, and he's going to handle his, Shader said, which can surely be applied with 2020 vision. Women's college volleyball. Power non-conference battles spice new year. From John Lewizzi. Women's college volleyball is back, and so are the heavyweight matchups. Over the first few weeks of the 2026 season, some of the biggest brands and top-ranked teams will play in packed-out non-conference matches across the country, making these early season games not only a preview of the NCAA tournament in December, but also must-watch volleyball for avid fans. Here's what to know about this weekend's events. AVCA First Serve Showcase, August 21st, number 8, Texas A&M versus number 7, Louisville, 6 o'clock Eastern on ESPN2. Number 6, Wisconsin versus number 3, Kentucky, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. August 22nd, number 6, Wisconsin versus number 7, Louisville, 4 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Number 2, Texas versus number 12, Arizona State, 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports. August 23rd, number 8, Texas A&M versus number 11, SMU, at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Number 4, Pitt versus number 3, Kentucky, 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Monday, August 24th. Number 4, Pitt versus Xavier, 6 p.m. Eastern. Number 2 team versus Marquette, 6 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports. Milwaukee is the place to be during opening weekend of the 2026 season. 8 teams in the preseason AVCA Coaches Poll will be competing in the AVCA First Serve Showcase at Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee. Day 1 of the 4-day event in the Bruce City features number 7 Louisville taking on number 8 Texas A&M and number 3 Kentucky meeting number 6 Wisconsin in a highly anticipated nightcap, a rematch of a 5-set national semifinal match from last season. Day 2 includes number 6 Wisconsin, which finished with the second best hitting percentage last season, going up against number 7 Louisville, which led the nation in team blocks. Day 3 features back-to-back National Player of the Year Olivia Babcock and number 4 Pitt taking on Brooklyn DeLay and the Wildcats to cap the proceedings. '26 top pick Azzi Fudd out for the WNBA season. From Callie Finn. Azzi Fudd, the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 WNBA draft, is out for the rest of the season. The Dallas Wings rookie will have an arthroscopic procedure to address ongoing right knee soreness, according to an announcement from the team August 19th. Fudd is set to have the procedure in Connecticut early next week. The Wings have 8 games remaining in the regular season and a 20-16 record, as they sit at number 8 in the standings, right on the edge of playoff contention. In her rookie season, Fudd averaged 13.1 points, 1.8 assists, and 1.7 steals over 30 games, with 30 points. Her last appearance was 2 weeks ago, and she still leads all rookies this season in both three-pointers, 62, and steals, 52. Fudd also became the first rookie in WNBA history to win the three-point shooting contest during last month's All-Star Weekend. She credited the accomplishment in part to her long experience battling injuries throughout her career. Even during her time playing for decorated UConn head coach Gino Erlema with current teammate Paige Buckers, Fudd missed games with multiple lower leg issues. In a statement released via the Instagram page for her podcast, Fudd Around and Find Out, the guard acknowledged her familiar situation and thanked fans for their support. "I've got a small procedure coming up on my knee, and I'll be out as I recover," Fudd said. "I know exactly what comes next. Rehab, put in the work, come back, ready and better than before. Grateful for my family, my circle, and the Wings organization for support. Thank you for all the messages today. They meant a lot to me." You've been listening to a reading of the USA Today for August 21st. We read the USA Today weekdays at noon. For more information, call us at 716-821-5555. Your reader for this hour has been Nancy.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have episode number 3 of A World Appears by Michael Pollan. Following that at 3 o'clock is New York Magazine, and at 4 o'clock is a re-airing of the Buffalo News. Stay with us.
Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents their